just glassed up 3 buck. And then they all look good, but there's 1 buck. And he's laying in the front. That's the buck right now that I'd like to try to go after tomorrow. But that's a good buck. Not real deep forks, but a buck I'd definitely like to try to go after tomorrow. Fingers crossed. I was telling Skylar earlier that my goal for this year is to try to get a buck as big or bigger than a buck that I named Rambo.
Here's a picture of him right here.
It's fun, dude. I can't believe it's opening day. It feels weird. My dad's down at camp glassing down into this lower portion that me and my dad nicknamed the jungle because it's thick trees. Me and Skylar up here on a spot that we kind of nicknamed the castle because it's just a knob, kind of like a tower, and you could just glass all the way around it. And as we got up to the top here, I kind of crest over and I saw the back end of a deer and some tines. So I backed out. We tried to make a loop, but we think that the deer smelled us and they took off. We're glassing some of them. We're waiting for the one nicer buck to get into view where we could get a better look at them. They're bedded into some timber, and the 2-point we could only see. So for the evening hunt, it's about 4 o'clock. Skylar and I decided to come down into the jungle, kind of still hunt. We jumped 1 doe earlier, and then below us spotted another one. And then we looked to our left, and there's a rack looking at us. Looks like a 2x3. So we just took a seat. See if they'll get up and move, or if there's anything else with them. So it's just a waiting game.
Dude, he's a 3x3.
Is he a 3x3? He's tall. He's tempting. I'll decide when I'm in bow range.
Yeah, his main beam on his right side is not as strong, but he has a 3rd point on his right side.
Man, what an opening day. That standoff didn't last that long, but it lasted long enough for us sitting in the heat. He's not spooked, but he kind of just turned. He wanted to go uphill, but then he decided to go down and across. The wind was swirly right here, so he eventually caught our scent. So Skylar just took off, started heading back down. He was only able to come up overnight, so I'm on my way back up to camp. It's starting to rain. It's gonna be a rainy hunt. So I'm gonna get there, eat some dinner, probably get ready for bed. It's been a long day, a long, good day. Had a blast. Hopefully my dad's doing good at camp. He's probably eating his supper in his tent right now. I just gotta push up this hill. I'll be there. Man, what a good time. It's just about noon. I glassed up 3 pretty good bucks up the top of this basin. Might make my climb up there. Let's see if I could find a spot to ambush them in. One of them's a pretty tall, nice 4-point. Looks like they're going up into that cut. So I'm gonna make my way up there and see if I can relocate them. I gotta get up into the upper bowl. So, fingers crossed. Dang it. So freaking close. He was just down there 100 yards from me. Hey, that's a nice buck. Quick little recap on that stock. Got up here, up into the upper bowl. I knew they were somewhere in this drainage right here. So I went up a little higher, dropped my bag, and I just slowly started creeping down. There was a little spine like this, and I was on the back side of it, and every now and then I'd peek over and look down, and then go back on the other side and keep creeping. Well, when I got down closer to the end of the drainage where it flattens out where I last saw them before I started stalking up here. So I dropped down into that, slowly skirted across, peeking up and over as I'm going. And then I see the big, tall 4 standing there in the middle of the field, 100 yards from me. Definitely not going to take that shot. And then the 3-point was about 80 yards from me. A little too far. I mean, I've made shots like that, but I want to try to get within like 60, 50. That's where I'm feeling really confident this year. So I slowly sat down and just waited. Maybe, hopefully the other 4-point would come out closer. But I really wanted that tall 4-point. But I waited. I think the wind swirled or somehow they got my scent. They took off, not really running or spooked. They took off up, and then they crossed right underneath Cube Rock and went up into the pines. They didn't look or seem spooked. So right now I'm just kind of sitting in this spot. I have a good vantage point of the whole basin. If deer were to start to move down, I go into this drainage and kind of get in. And hopefully try to cut him off. My dad is still back at camp. But day 2 is living up to day 1, I tell you that right now. Well, the evening glass is slowly winding to an end. Kind of keeping an eye out on this face across from camp just to see if anything comes out. But right now we are starting a fire just to help dry off some stuff that didn't fully get dry from last night's rainstorm. Get that going, stay warm, and then keep an eye out until there's no more light left, and climb in the sleeping bags, go to sleep, wake up early, glass, and then make a move, hopefully on a buck.
Yeah, it's been beautiful up here. Every day seems like 3 days. It's just been a wonderful time away from work. Being with Ross, my son, the memories that I have from back when he was 3 months old, carrying him on my back. Now I'm seeing him climbing these cliffs up on top of rocks, looking down on the deer to try to get in on them to get the big ones. And being at camp and watching him climbing the mountains and seeing the deer move. The memories of the day come to life when you see the flames of the fire. I enjoy these times more than work, and each day is like 3 days when you're out here enjoying yourself in the back country. And I'm so grateful that I have a son that I could do this with, and the friends that we have to share these memories with when they're up here with us. Skylar, Paulo, Kobe, and other ones that will end up coming later. It's just wonderful to have that kind of friendship and to share the stories that each of us share throughout the years of our lives in hunting.
Well, last night it was pretty windy and rainy. And this morning it is pretty windy. Just trying to sit here while we eat breakfast and glass a little bit, see if we could see anything coming out in the open. But I honestly think that a lot of the deer probably tucked down into the bottom just due to this wind. It's been overcast. The sun hasn't really come out yet. We have to keep our eyes out and see if we see anything either moving out from the bottom to go back up to the peaks, or getting to a point where we could glass down in there and see if we see anything bedded. So with it being pretty windy and glassing up at the top, we didn't see anything. There was a doe that was making her way down. So me and my dad are thinking, since it's been so windy and with the wind swirling around up here, we're gonna drop down into the jungle. Maybe do some sitting. While I'm passing through here, I wanted to show you. A lot of you guys have watched the video already. This is the spot where we recovered Kobe's buck from last year. And down here is what's left of his buck. Backbone, a few ribs, and the back hip bone. Is that a 3-point? It looks like a 2. It could be a small 3. So there's a 2-point bedded down there. There could be some other buck with it. Right now the wind's kind of blowing, kind of on an angle this way. So we just gotta be careful and see, just to make sure there isn't anything else So we got back to camp a little bit ago. We saw that a storm was moving in, so we wanted to come up to camp where we have the tents, just in case we had to take shelter. And when we got to camp, we started glassing. And right before the storm came in, we spotted the tall 4-point and those two other decent-sized buck that were with him. They're clear up in the upper part of the basin. We watched them bed as the storm was just hitting. And right now it's kind of foggy out there. And it's raining pretty good, so we're taking shelter. We're gonna ride out the rain. Might be a few hours by what the forecast says, and then once it clears, we'll go out there and hopefully glass them back up. Who knows? I mean, they might ride the storm out up there, or they might drop down lower in the basin, but we'll just have to wait and see. It's starting to clear up. It's still sprinkling a little, but I saw the 4-point, which is one of the bucks that he was with. He was up here, but I glassed him up from the bottom before I kind of looped up and around. He wasn't in a spot I could stalk in on. And then he went up into the pines. I didn't see any other deer with him. But I'm up here. It's about 5:30. And if I don't see anything in the next 30 minutes, I'm gonna head back down to camp and eat some dinner. So looking at the forecast this morning, the weather's not looking good for tomorrow, which is when we were planning on packing out of here. So we got everything packed up. We're going to pack out right now this morning. I'm going to try to come up here at a later date before the general season ends, just to see if I could get another crack at LT or even Caveman. If not, I'll be hunting the extended archery a lot. I'm going to recap the rest of the hunting season for you guys, but first I want to thank you guys for the continued support, not only on YouTube, but for those that have purchased merch on our website. I did end up making one more trip up before the general season ended. My buddy Austin and I hiked through the night to the top and slept for a few hours, only to wake up wet and in a fog. We did try our best to find spots where we could glass to try to locate the bucks I encountered during the opener. We were only able to glass up the lower sections of the basin as the clouds covered the upper portions and the peaks. The only deer we turned up were a few doe, with no bucks to be found. That brings us into the extended archery season. Kobe and I headed up into a small basin for the morning hunt. As we got to the knob we planned to glass from, it was just getting to be first light. As we sat down to glass, I had a feeling to check on the other side of our glassing point. That's when I spotted a few deer, with one being a pretty good buck. I told Kobe if he wanted to make a stalk on him he could, and I would stay behind to try to guide him in. He made his way up into the top of the basin, but he had to make a big loop to get the wind right. While Kobe was making his approach from above the buck's position, I watched the buck as he started to rub his velvet off. Soon after, the buck started to make his way up the basin towards Kobe's position. He did end up getting into bow range of the buck, but there were some branches blocking his vitals. The only clear shot he had was at one of the smaller bucks in the group. Soon after that encounter, the bucks ended up going up and over and into the next basin.
Oh dude, that was a cooker. Thought I was gonna die 2, 3, 10 times. That was a long stalk and felt even longer on the way down. So all those cliffs up there, dude, that chute is so steep. You would not believe it. Oh my gosh.
A buddy of mine from work's dad drew a once-in-a-lifetime bull moose tag here in Utah. And when the draw results did come out, we were all sharing who drew what tag and where. And when he told me his dad drew this tag, I told him that when you guys do get a moose on the ground, give me a call and I would definitely come up to give you guys a helping hand. And one morning I did get a call that they had a moose down and if I'd be able to come up and help them pack some meat out. Me and Colby didn't hesitate and we were able to leave work early to go give them some help. It was a really good experience with a great group of guys and all the excitement around this once-in-a-lifetime experience. For the rest of the extended archery season, we hunted every weekend we could. We were trying to locate older class bucks, but due to the previous winter being harsh for the wildlife here, it was tough to find when we were wanting to notch our tag on. Not saying there was no deer or bucks in that matter. We were seeing plenty of bucks, just not one that we wanted to go after or notch our tag on. We, as well as other hunters we talked to on the mountain, think that maybe some, if not most, if any, of the older class bucks did not make it through the winter. Even though I didn't notch my tag at the end of the season, I still had a blast, and I cannot wait for next season. That would do it for this video. I want to thank you guys all for tuning in and following along in this adventure. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on more and future adventures just like this one.